Is it possible to get into $1 million of debt? And even more importantly, is it possible to get out of $1 million in debt? Find out what happened when a young couple called Dave Ramsey for help.
It's time for the Margin Matters Minute with Money Man Jason Brown.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of JB Reacts. That's right, folks. JB is going to react to another interesting article I found on the World Wide Web. And this one is titled, "This Couple is $1 million in Debt. They called a finance show for help, and people are floored." Now, the finance show they called is the Dave Ramsey Show. If you're not familiar with him, he's a pretty popular financial guru. I think he has a radio and TV show and, all the stuff. You can Google him and learn about him if you haven't heard of him. He is also very famously known for his tough love tactics. A lot of people think that he is rude and mean and nasty to people when they call, but I think he just kind of gets irritated hearing the same things over and over. And he's kind of like your tough dad, if you will. Like he doesn't really, he's a no nonsense guy. I'll just say it that way. So anyway, we're going to dive into this article, and I will link this to the description below if you guys want to read the entire article for yourself, but I'm just going to pull out some interesting notes from the article. So first of all, this couple, they're actually a pretty young couple. One of them was 29 and one of them was 32 years old at the time that they called. I'm not sure if they were married or not. It just said that they were partners. So here's how it breaks down. It says they had a mortgage of about $210,000. They had a combined $335,000 in student loan debt, which they both had advanced degrees. So that kind of explains that. And they said the rest is in credit cards and personal loans. So that's kind of what comprised their $1 million of debt. So the article goes on to say, it says, did you know the average American has about $90,460 in debt? This can include car notes, student loans, credit card debt, mortgages, and personal loans, similar to this couple. And it could be a burden to get out from under. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Actually, we're going to see what Dave Ramsey tells these guys as well. So this couple called in to Dave Ramsey. I guess he has a call-in show, and he gives them advice of what to do. So here it kind of breaks it down a little bit further. It says the couple regarding their debt, they had $136,000 was owed in credit card debt, $44,000 was owed in personal loans, and which they did not explain further. That's interesting. And then they said that they owed $35,000 in car loans. Okay, so that's some more breakdown of the debt that they had. So Ramsey was shocked, and he had asked him how old they were, which I just mentioned. They were 29 and 32. And then it goes on to say, now here's, he's going to ask him, what is your income? Like, how much money are you bringing in versus how much money, he's going to break down income versus expenses. So they said, it looked like they both had master's degrees, which explains the student loan debt. And it says that they both are working government jobs, bringing in a combined yearly income of $230,000, which is pretty respectable household income, you would think. Of course, it's all going to depend on where you live as far as cost of living expenses and stuff. I don't think it says where this couple lives, but that is a big factor at play. You could live in San Francisco or New York or Hawaii. Those are three of the most expensive places to live. Or you can live in, some places in the Southeast that are very, very inexpensive to live. So that makes a huge difference in a situation like this. Okay, so it goes on to say, now this is Ramsey, I'm quoting here. Dave Ramsey says, is there recognition on both of your parts about how absurd this thing is? So he's saying the situation is very absurd. He's probably getting a little animated with them at this point. And then he says, you guys should be scared to death of this debt, this tremendous amount of debt. And then he goes on to say, your lifestyle is considerably above your extremely good income and has been for a long period of time. And and you've gotten used to spending like you're in Congress. So he makes a joke about Congress spending being out of control. Now, Ramsey does admit that they have good. He says they have extremely good incomes. So that's he acknowledges that. So then it goes on to say, so here's where it breaks it down a little bit further. Ramsey says you're making $210,000 and spending $310,000, which I actually earlier in the article said they were making $230,000. So hey, what's $20,000? Whatever. So he's basically saying they're spending about $100,000 more a year than they're taking in. So that is what a lot of people call lifestyle inflation, or you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, all those little cliches. So they're living way beyond their means. That's the root core of the issue. And then Ramsey says, I'm getting ready to put you on a budget of $30,000. So that's pretty extreme, but that's what probably needs to be done with someone in a situation like this that they're really trying to dig out of. So then Ramsey goes on to say, you're not going to see the inside of a restaurant unless it's your extra job. So, and then he says, this is how humbling this is going to be. So he's basically saying, hey, it's time to cut out, all the extra expenses like going out to eat and any other unnecessary like entertainment type expenses. They all need to be cut out immediately. So the host being Dave Ramsey, the host goes on to explain that getting rid of their debt is possible with dedication, but that couple must be willing to seriously cut back on spending and stop indulging in luxury items if they want to get their finances on track. Now here, I'm going to pause, and share a personal story of a friend who was in a situation like this. Because you might be thinking, like me, $1 million in consumer debt, that no one's ever going to be able to get out of that. It doesn't matter how young you are or how much time. So the younger, the better. They have more time to dig out of this than someone who might be, older and trying to retire or something, and this would inhibit them from doing so. But I'm going to tell you a story. A friend of mine named Sarah and her family, she's a good friend of my wife. She shared a story that her and her husband were in $1 million of debt as well. Ironically, this is around the same number. And their debt was, her husband is a doctor. I believe he's a surgeon. So a lot of medical school loan debt, which I can't even imagine. I think it was close to $500,000. She said. So half of that $1 million was medical student loans. And the other half was they had actually went and bought some land to build their house on. So the cost of the land and then the cost of building, their own house was the other $500,000. So just those three things, $1 million of debt. Now, why I'm telling you this story is because they worked their butts off for about 6 years and paid off that debt. They paid off $1 million of debt in about 6 years. Now, they worked very aggressively. They actually hired a financial advisor, planner, coach, if you will, someone to work with them, and actually had a tax planner as well, helping them with their taxes and so forth. So they just their story is astonishing. And this couple here, there's no reason why they can't do the same thing. So I wanted to share that with you, that it can be done. That's the whole point of that story. So this article goes on to say, people in the comment section of the video were stunned and could hardly imagine how the couple was able to process such a burden weighing over their heads. And those outside the States, the United States, this is referring to, those outside of America were shocked to learn how much debt people can get into by seeking higher education. So that's a whole nother, I've done lots of videos on the student loan debt crisis. You guys can check them out. I have a playlist set up on that, the student loan debt crisis, how to avoid student loans, etc. So it is, people who do not live in the United States just are absolutely astonished of how much debt Americans are getting into just from going to college. So again, that's a whole separate video. But basically, Ramsey, he tells them, what any other, financial expert is going to tell them is, you just got to start from the beginning. You got to start Do you have a budget? Probably not. Most Americans don't live off of a budget, and that's why they get into trouble. So, and people cringe at the word budget. They hate to hear the word budget because they think it's constricting and it's restraining, but it's really freedom. Budget gives you freedom to make choices with your money. Because if you don't take control of your money, guess what happens? Your money is going to take control of you. That's what happened to this young couple. So really the first thing that they should do, and I'm sure this is what Ramsey told them, is that you need to sit down and track where are all the expense, itemize, write it down, pen and paper, every expense, itemize them all out. Then you can start examining those expenses and figure out, hey, what can be cut? Like he said, no more eating out at restaurants or whatever their vices are. No more going to concerts, no more, vacations. Start cutting out unnecessary expenses. How many subscriptions have you? How many memberships do you have that you can cut out? I know people that have 2 and 3 gym memberships, and they never step foot in a gym. That kind of stuff is what we're talking about here. What can be cut? So you're gonna break that down, figure out everything that you can cut, and then once you get to a point where I can't cut anymore, I can't cut food because I have to eat to live. So you get to that point, and then you look at how can I increase my income. Now this couple, they already have a very healthy income, so they're already doing pretty well, according to Ramsey. And but hey, is there a way that they can pick up a part-time job or maybe do some freelancing or independent contractor work, or maybe working one day on the weekend or what have you? Any type of little side work. The gig economy is huge right now in our country. Any type of side work you can do that can bring in extra money, you can just throw it straight to the debt. Get with a tax planner and make sure you're doing your taxes properly. Maybe you're not getting as much of a refund that you should be getting, or maybe you're paying too much in taxes at come tax time. That could be a significant help in the finances. The list goes on and on. Now, you guys put in the comments some of your suggestions on how this couple can turn their lives around and get out of that debt. It can be done, but really, it's going to be radical lifestyle changes or modifications, or what I say, behavior modification has to take place. And this cannot be erased overnight. You can't sit back and hope that you're going to get an inheritance, or that you're going to win the lottery, or that you're going to get a big financial settlement from a lawsuit. You can't live that way. You can't live on that type of hope, because hope is not a strategy. Hard work is a strategy. Hard work and being aggressive and assertive is going to get them out of that debt. And it's going to take time. It took my friend Sarah and her family, it took them 6 years, which I was surprised that it took them that quick. I would have guessed it would have taken them a lot longer than 6 years, but they were very aggressive, and they made radical changes in their life. And that's what's going to have to happen here. So for this couple, they can do it. And it starts with just simple steps: getting on a budget, tracking your expenses, tracking your income, changing decisions slowly at a time. If they're eating out 5 times a week, maybe cut it down to 3. Do it slowly. Don't just cold turkey it. Hey, I'm eating out 5 times a week. Next week, I'm going to eat out 3 times a week. Next month, I'm going to eat out 2 times a week. So you're slowly and gradually cutting it down. And then in 2 months, I'm only going to eat out 1 time a week. So that way, it's not like you're not ripping the Band-Aid off. It's going to be an easier kind of transition to making better choices regarding saving money and putting that money toward debt. So those are just some of my initial ideas. This article was very interesting to read, and it's troublesome and unsettling to hear stories like this, especially of young couples. Because when you're in that much debt, when you're young, it's probably preventing them from buying a house, starting a family, buying a car, any type of decisions like that. It's going to prevent them from doing that. So again, this is really a story that we can all learn from, and just make sure that doesn't happen in our lives. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video brought some value to. If you love talking about money like I do, subscribe to my channel. That's all I do. This is a money channel. You can subscribe and like and leave a comment below. If you have some tips or ideas for somebody that's in debt, or hey, maybe you have a debt-free story of your own, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear it, so we can all help each other out. So until next time, this is Jason Brown saying, if you want to hear more money videos, stick around, because YouTube should pop up a few videos at the top of the screen that are related to this one. And to always remember my favorite saying, it's not the amount of money you make, but the margin that matters the most. See you next time.